Good evening. The coronavirus outbreak has had an unprecedented impact on hospital services, forcing health trusts to reorganise wards to care for COVID and non-COVID patients, as well as increasing intensive care capacity and redeploying staff to the front line. It's also meant almost all visitors have been banned. In a moment, we'll hear from Kevin McNamara, the Chief Executive of the Great Western Hospital in Swindon. But first, Catherine de Costa's been finding out about the creative ways staff are helping patients stay connected.
How are we doing?
Doing all right, actually. Feeling the pain's, a lot better than it was when I came in here.
This is virtual visiting. Ian Cook from Swindon's expecting to spend more than a week in hospital having an abscess drained.
Yeah.
Who's on the phone, love?
Who's that?
Who is it?
His brother and other relatives aren't allowed to visit in person because of the risk of spreading coronavirus. Instead, the Great Western's giving all patients access to make video calls.
My brother and I are very, very close. So, under normal circumstances, we would be seeing each other practically every day. And as far as my nieces are concerned, we're always playing and having lots of fun. So, yeah, to see him today was absolutely lovely, fantastic.
To actually see him face to face, you can see exactly how well he's doing, whereas on the phone, you might pick up on little bits and pieces, but until you actually see him, you don't really know.
Another service being offered here is run by NHS Companions. Ellen Hare, a junior doctor working in palliative care, puts companions in touch with patients in need of some extra company.
And there's lots of other fun things, so they'll often play music or read books or bring in patients' favourite newspapers, so it's really individualised care.
What impact do you see, on their well-being?
It makes a huge difference to the patients that we see, and it gives them something to sort of look forward to during the day, because often they'll have a favourite companion or they'll know that there's someone that's coming to see them, so it can really get them through what could really be a long stay in hospital without having any visitors.
The hospital's also received hundreds of red hearts, knitted and donated by the local community.
We're giving them out to patients who are at the end of their life, so they'll get a heart, and then we're also giving a heart to their relative. So normally that's by post because they're unable to visit them, and so it's just a way for them to be connected when they can't be physically connected, really.
The COVID battle is far from over. The hospital's lost 88 patients to the virus. But 165 have now recovered, including this man who'd spent more than a fortnight in ICU. It's still a long road ahead, but with every victory comes hope and strength to carry on.
Well, Catherine's been speaking to the Chief Executive of the trust that runs the Great Western. Kevin McNamara has praised his staff for their efforts over the last 2 months in responding to the crisis.
One of the major changes here at the Great Western Hospital in Swindon has been converting this private wing into a COVID assessment unit. Intensive care capacity has been expanded from 12 to 32 beds, and staff from other departments have been redeployed to work on COVID wards.
So the big concern early on was how many staff would be off work and self-isolating at home. And at our busiest time, we were over 400 staff on a given day were off self-isolating. Now we're just over the 200 mark. We've seen that number drop as the pandemic has peaked and started to decline. So that's a really positive sign.
It's obviously been incredibly difficult working conditions, and as a trust you've lost one of your own consultants to this virus. What psychological support is there for staff?
Dr. Adeji's death brought it all home to us, actually, what we were dealing with. And so one of the things we did early on was put in place 24/7 mental health support for staff, because for me it's one of the challenges of not only how it feels to be in the moment, but actually what does it feel like a week, month, a year after, when you reflect back and think of the challenges that you faced. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for the NHS, is how we support that long-term well-being.
Black and ethnic minorities seem to be disproportionately affected by this virus. What, if any, extra precautions are you taking to support staff?
So one of the things that we're doing is just today reviewing and revising our risk assessment for staff, and we're focusing that not just on BME staff but other staff that may have an underlying issue that may contribute or make them at greater risk of COVID. So that might mean that for some staff we may have to support them away from a patient-facing role. It might mean that we have to provide additional PPE over and above what we're providing at the moment. It might mean that we change their sort of job plan, all of those sorts of things. But that is something that we will do on an individual basis, one-to-one.
Trusts are now being asked to resume some services like cancer and elective surgery. What difficulties do you see in going forward?
So that big challenge now is how we gear ourselves up to that phase 2, and in a way that's going to be an even bigger challenge than how we stepped into phase 1 and started turning this activity off to free up beds and get ourselves as best prepared as we possibly could. And that's the big focus of all of the discussions we're now having as a team. And we've also got to recognise that actually COVID will be there with us for a long period of time. There could be future peaks as well, so we have to be agile and quick enough to be able to switch activity on and off in case we need more beds for COVID patients in the months ahead, and particularly as we start to head into the winter months at the back end of the year.
Kevin McNamara talking to Catherine Da Costa. Meanwhile,